only write tracks for Steve Swift reviews. He punched me twice in the face and asked for a duel. The pugilistic prophet with newbies diagnostics, like Scroobius Pip but less toxic. The UK comic shooting stars never lost it. It's 2025 and the internet still dies. Guys are chasing algorithms like a crack pipe high.
I mean, it's a great time to be a boxing fan, and an even better time to be listening to this, because this is the Bees of Boxing with Steve Swift, and that means that you get to spend, well, the unfortunate part is with me, but the great part is you get to spend some time with Steve Swift. I mean, the guy will punch you in the face. I'm just saying, he's that kind of a guy. So let's find out, first and foremost, before we get into this, because we got to get into some big stuff this week, Steve. We've got to get into the biggest news going around boxing that, I mean, has happened in quite some time. First of all, let's find out, how are you doing with all of the news? How are you doing after the Lee Wood and Josh Warrington fight this past weekend? And more importantly, the other stuff. But we'll get into that. First and foremost, Steve Swift, how the hell are you, brother?
I'm very well, thank you. We have a spring-like day today, so that's very nice. See, we love talking about the weather here in the UK, and consequently, spring-like weather, when it's a little bit temperate, is lovely for us. We like that sort of thing. So it makes one feel very happy.
Well, you know who else felt really good? Was all of the fine folks over at the Benn household. I'm talking about Conor Benn. Let's get into this right now. Steve, the biggest news coming out of boxing, obviously, is the signing for Conor Benn to Zuffa Boxing. What do you know about this?
I know what everybody else knows, but I have been saying over the past few days, you cannot keep calling Conor Benn a superstar, as Eddie Hearn has been saying, and not sign him up to a fight. So we had all the irons in the fire, a bit like with AJ, and yet he didn't have a fight. So he has signed an enormous deal, but I'm sure we'll talk about what kind of deal, with Zuffa Boxing, and both Frank Smith of Matchroom, who looked teary-eyed yesterday morning, and Eddie are devastated, and they are the words that's the word that Eddie used.
Well, I mean, that's a big word for a baby, according to Dana White. Devastated. Listen, here's the question. Let me put this to you in a hypothetical then, Steve. Let's say you're dating somebody for over 10 years. And during this time of dating, you've had your ups and downs. You've helped this person that you're dating get clean. You've had multiple reasons to not date this person because of things that have happened, failed drug tests and whatnot, but you still stick by this person through thick and thin. Would you think at that point that you need to have a prenup, thinking that this person is going to screw you over in the end?
Yes, and I cannot believe that Adam Smith, the voice of boxing, the voice of boxing on DAZN, has done today. He's come out and talked about this because he's very close to it, as you might expect, being with DAZN, who are close to Matchroom, and he knows Conor Benn very well. And he mentioned, all the kind of, it's not very nice the way he did it and all of that, came the extraordinary comment, words to the effect of, I think that Eddie Hearn will rue the day that he didn't sign a contract with Conor Benn. So I had just assumed, maybe the contract has come to an end and we don't know about this, and Eddie just expected that it would be renewed, but there wasn't a contract during the period when he was calling him a superstar, standing side by side with him in the ring next to Shakur Stevenson when he was called out, all of that. So traveling the world with him, and he wasn't under contract. What kind of business is that, sir?
It's the kind of business, like I just said, it goes beyond just being business. You think you have a relationship with this person because of the things that you've been through and the things that you've helped this person get through in their professional career. Now, that being said, there's also a little, a lot of people floating rumors around that this entire thing could be very Bret Hart-esque, where, being sent to the other side to take all of their money in a one fight deal. What do you think about this whole thing? Because let's remember, we're talking about a deal that is one fight, $15 million. Go.
It's bad work for Zuffa as well. I mean, this is bad business for Zuffa as well. I do not know why Zuffa would do that other than to say, ha, 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 ha. Your boo sucks to Matchroom.
That's a fucking expensive ha-ha, though, Steve.
It really is. It really is. So I don't know whether this has been cooked up. I really do not know. It wouldn't surprise me if they weren't talking to each other. We know that everything's febrile at the moment. What this does with getting Conor Benn involved and also signing Andy Ruiz, people might have forgotten, signing Andy Ruiz. What kind of business is that? It just makes Zuffa look like any other sanctioning promoter working with, he'll have to work with sanctioning bodies and all of that. You've got another Jai Opataya situation on your hands with Conor Benn, who doesn't know whether he wants loads of money or loads of belts. So he's got that Jake Paul problem there as well. But yes, what fight can they make that is worth paying someone $15 million unless they're going to bring on Chris Eubank Jr. and do the third?
Jesus. Oh, okay, you had me until you just started spewing shit out your mouth, Steve. That is absolutely an atrocious take. I know. Listen, we have an MMA show where we say it's the ugliest show with the hottest takes, but that might very well be the hottest take in all of combat sports that I've heard in quite some time. I don't think that one is going to happen, and I come up with some hot fucking takes, buddy. Listen, here's. You're right, because you have to, if you're signing this guy for this kind of money, you have to be able to have somebody who you're going to fight against, right? So let's talk about what happened this past weekend, because he was at a fight and he was at the Ryan Garcia fight. So let's not talk about the fight itself, but let's talk about the fact that Conor Benn was there, sitting a couple rows back. You could see him plain as day with his Butch Reed haircut. And you could tell that, like, oh, this should be a moment where this should be called out. The business end of things became very, very clear. Why is Mauricio Suleiman on camera? Why is he flying around to these things when the money that he makes is off of the backs of the people that are in the ring currently at the moment? Why is there so much WBC fanfare and rhetoric being thrown around on this fight? And why wasn't the person who's the mandatory for the next position being called out in this fight? A lot of that has to do with, I think, is like, we're going to spell politics with a B this week, because that's really what it was, right? That it wasn't business. It wasn't bullshit. It was straight up politics. What do you think?
Yeah, I saw Mauricio Suleiman being, I think, can't remember which show it was for, but he was sort of doorstepped. He was asked about the fight and then said, and what do you know about, what do you think about the Conor Benn situation? I said, the what? Oh, I don't know about that. Sure you don't, mate, because you don't have your ear to the ground at all. You're bound to know about that. And the grin on his face, the kind of, I don't know about that at all. I'll have to think about that. Yeah. I thought I don't know, but it does look like you. I would be surprised if you didn't know this, particularly as Eddie's known about this for about a week. So, surely you know about this, as you have installed Conor Benn as your number one contender for the welterweight title, and you've got the Garcia and Barrios fight coming up. It really smells, doesn't it?
Why else is he sitting right behind Ryan Garcia's promoter? Like he's literally sitting behind De La Hoya, and they put De La Hoya next to his side piece, the entire time, that you obviously couldn't miss sitting there ringside. And as I'm sitting there watching this, all I'm thinking to myself is, does she realize what kind of things she's going to be doing to Oscar De La Hoya later tonight?
Ironing his shirts, you mean?
Well, I mean, you can call it what you want.
Buffing his shoes?
Yes, buffing his shoes. Yeah, his high heels.
That'll be it.
His high heels. That's what she's going to be buffing. Listen, the whole business end of things really kind of took away from me afterwards, because I was kind of looking forward to it. And so let's talk about the Ryan Garcia fight. First of all, let's take it from the beginning of it, because this was exactly what we talked about before, that they really are trying hard to get this belt off of Mario Barrios, which is a wild, wild thing when you think about like how long Mario Barrios has been around. His entrance was fantastic. Like they gave this guy, here's your gold watch, now bugger off into the sunset. It's exactly what I saw. What did you think of it?
I love the way you use the English phrase there, bugger off into the sunset. That's very nice. Thank you. I'm having an influence on you already. It's nice. Yes, I thought that, the rhetoric has always been about Barrios. He's not a powerful or, he's a champion that's easily beatable. That's generally, Manny Pacquiao came back. He's older. He was terrible 2 fights before that. He almost beat him. And Barrios didn't turn up that night. And actually, in some ways, didn't turn up for the Ryan Garcia fight either. Because I thought Ryan Garcia it was a great controlled fight from Garcia. And, I've said it, I've done a podcast earlier on, and the first words were, lots will say, about time too. And it is about time that he actually concentrated and we see what he can do. And it was a fantastic performance. But I just thought that, Barrios was put down in the first round, wasn't he? But I just thought that he was gun shy. And I thought that he didn't want to throw anything just in case something came back. He did occasionally throw, but not really. He only really threw in that 10th round, I think, after Joe Goosen read in the riot act. And I think that it wasn't a great performance from Mario Barrios. And I just thought, well, the coronation, King Rai needs his crown.
Well, you know what I saw? I thought that it was exactly like Ryan Garcia's last fight, but flipped. Absolutely flipped. This time around, Mario Barrios was playing the role of Ryan Garcia, the way that Ryan Garcia played the role of Ryan Garcia against Rolly Romero, because Barrios just couldn't get off. He couldn't do anything. And Garcia, he kept putting himself into a position for Garcia to just keep hitting him. And the fact that he came out and started using that right hand the way that he did, I think that really threw him off. So much so that Ryan Garcia, this was the even funnier part. Ryan Garcia, obviously, his ex-coach and trainer was the guy who's in the corner of Mario Barrios. And he's even sitting there going, yo, we're getting our ass kicked. You gotta do something in there. We are getting our ass kicked. But in his head, he's sitting there just going, where was this Ryan Garcia? Right? Because this was the Ryan Garcia that put Devin Haney on his butt 3 times. This was that Ryan Garcia. And I hope that he stays that way. And it's going to be very interesting to see here's my guess. Let's go hot take. Steve. How many days? What's the over-under? How many days does it take before Ryan Garcia is stripped by the WBC for that belt? 5, you say? 5 days, and he'll be stripped of that belt, and then he'll be going to fight Shakur Stevenson in Zuffa.
Because we've seen this from WBC before, haven't we? So we've seen, the situation with Stevenson, which is, I'm stripping you of that title for reasons. Mauricio, tell us what those reasons are. Here's what they are. I'm even more confused now. Well, leave it, because I'm not telling you anything more. So I WBC are very proactive at the moment, aren't they? I mean, they're gonna give you and I apparently a $40,000 jeweled one of these boxing glove. Is it us they're going to give it to? I think so. And other fighters. So they're really proactive, and I just feel that yes, Mauricio Sullivan has said already to Zuffa, happy to look at Usyk and Jai Pataya, but you need to do it within the rules. So he already has said, opening the door a little bit, let's talk. So I wouldn't be surprised at all with that hot take.
Well, and do you think that has something to do with why Ryan Garcia called out Shakur Stevenson instead of calling out Conor Benn? Because by calling out Shakur Stevenson, who just got stripped, like, you know what I mean? This is hey, remember when you were cool with all these guys in the green jackets here? Well, now I'm cool and you're not. And they've kind of forced me to say this because I listen to conspiracy theory stuff. I don't know. Do you think that had something to do with it? And it's because it's clearly politics. The number one guy is Conor Benn sitting out there. You have absolutely no reason to call out Shakur Stevenson other than it's a business move being put to you from the green jacket guys.
I really don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised if we bring all these theories on board and they tend to be correct. So I wouldn't be surprised at all. I also wouldn't be surprised if he was asked to keep it quiet, call out Conor Benn, and just thought, oh, I'm going to call out Shakur Stevenson. I wouldn't be surprised because Ryan Garcia will throw a curveball at you generally. So I'll tell you what, I'll bet that Mauricio Sullivan was looking at O'Shaquie Foster when he said, I'll pay the sanctioning fees for Shakur Stevenson, reinstate him and I'll fight him. And then he thought, leave that. Don't go anywhere near that. Let's just let that. And it has petered off, hasn't it? So, no one's picked that up and run with it except me, I think. So I think they just need to be it would be a very interesting power move.
Well, and okay, so then that brings up the next topic that I want to talk about, because you talk about O'Shaquie Foster. And you talk about so who's O'Shaquie Foster's promoter?
Who is it?
It's PBC guy.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like there's going to be a mass exodus of PBC guys soon. For nothing more than the fact that, Bob Arum, God bless his soul, doesn't have anything for anybody right now. And he's 100 million years old. So this is the bigger problem that I see that with Bob's stuff. And you think about fighters that he's got. And you think about the way that Zuffa is plucking people right now. You just talked about earlier, Andy Ruiz Jr. coming over. I mean, listen, if we can get a fight with Andy Ruiz Jr. against F.A. Ajagba, and the winner gets to fight Alexander Usyk before the end of the year, let's go. Why not? That would be a absolute coup in Zuffa. You can't believe it, right? You're fucking gobsmacked right now. Yeah, look at me. I got them all. I got all the British phrases, don't I?
I'm not gobsmacked. I'm slack-jawed with incredulity. If Andy Ruiz Jr. taking on Alexander Usyk is a fight for the ages, then I must be in a parallel universe, Tidger.
Think about that for a second. We're in a world where this could actually happen, but we're in a world where PBC could be losing a lot of fighters. And on that list is guys like Keyshawn Davis, guys like Abdullah Mason, guys like Brian Norman Jr., guys like Teofimo Lopez, who's already showed up over there. And if you're telling me right now that if you can't get the Ryan Garcia fight, or you can't get the Shakur Stevenson fight, is a fight with Conor Benn and Teofimo Lopez something that interests you?
Yes, very much indeed. But the thing is that Conor Benn is a kind of, a lot of people have said a lot of things about, well, Conor Benn didn't handle this very well. If we are to believe that he didn't take the call or refused to take a call with Eddie Hearn to say, look, I'm your mate. Can we talk about the price? And I'll try and match it. No, if that's the case, then it wasn't handled very well. But actually, he could be a pawn in here, because I take your point about PBC. You know, Nick Khan, when interviewed a while ago, before the first episode, seems like years ago, of Zuffa Boxing, said, we won't be breaking any contract. No, but if you've got somewhere you can raid talent from, because that's something that, you know, Bob Arum, I mean, fantastic promoter, but says, okay, can I have a deal where I do some kind of promotion with you?
Yeah.
And then you can have my guys, then that would be something that works for them. And then Conor Benn is in the mix, not at the top. And that is a real problem for him. And he's only got one fight. So who's that going to be? You know, he'd want that to be a huge fight. But what if they say, okay, as you say, okay, it's Teofimo Lopez. Yeah, great fight for boxing fans, but it doesn't do anything for my brand. That's the way it is, mate. You can have all this money, and then, as you say, Tartar, don't let the door hit you in the arse on the way out.
Or here's your $15 million fight. Here's your one fight for $15 million, and we give you Teofimo Lopez. If you win that fight, then you're going to get the fucking Terrence Crawford fight. Then you're going to get the Canelo Alvarez fight. Then you're going to get the fight that we really want you for. Then we can find out if you're a mole or not. Then we can say, is he really Team Zuffa, or was this all just a one-off for him and Eddie to go take the piss? Right?
Yes, I think you're right. If he works his way up and then they finally say, here's the fight we all want, Chris Eubank Jr. trilogy, as you've said before, that would be something very special for Zuffa to I think I don't quite know. You're right to ask these questions, because I don't know what this is. I think if I had heard that it was a year-long deal, or maybe, I don't know, a 7-fight deal, something like that. And okay, it'll go 2 years. But one fight, all that money, that's an event, isn't it? That's not a contract. That's an event.
And that's not a fight at the PC. That's not a fight at the Meta Apex facility. That's a fight at, an arena. That is a big fight, right? So then, is that a fight that is a headliner on a card like that? Can Conor Benn headline in Vegas? I don't think so. So now you've spent $15 million on the A side of the co-main event, or maybe the B side of the co-main event. So what's that main event going to be? I mean, this is where we're talking, where the Alexander Usyks come in. This is where I'm talking the Andy Ruizes come in.
Or your main event could be a fight for the ages, Big John Fury versus Carl Froch.
Oh,
it could be that. I had to raise it, Tidster. I had to. Where's Carl Froch? Where's Carl? Bring it to me.
You drunken sod. Yes, there's another one. Sod. I don't even know why it is that you guys get so offended at calling people grass. That's silly to me. Here's my question for you, though, Steve. Is Zuffa done with Eddie Hearn's locker room?
Absolutely not.
Who's next?
Ben Whittaker. Ben Whittaker.
Wow, that is an amazing take. You think that this recently signed Ben Whittaker, who just left Boxer to go over to Matchroom, is going to leave Matchroom to go to Zuffa? That's the trip to America that Ben Whittaker has?
Well, I think that's the big. I mean, if you look at Eddie's stable, he's just signed a 5-year extension with DAZN. If you're looking at those, I've got hundreds of fighters. Yeah, but when you look at the graphic, Anthony Joshua is on that graphic. So, I mean, but that's off the table, isn't it? Even though Eddie has said, "Oh, I think he'll come back in July," we can't say that, and that would fit in beautifully with Tyson Fury's comeback arc, wouldn't it? So, it's not him. They want somebody who can really talk well and who is a big brash business of boxing type. I'm probably just talking bullshit. However, it would be absolutely, because I've been saying, okay, stop. I mean, I understand how upset you are, Eddie and Frank, but wasn't it you, Eddie, who a few months ago was crowing about taking Ben Whittaker from Boxer because he was their shiniest bauble? And now look at where you are. This is the business of boxing, fella. And I'm just wondering whether Zuffa are going, we've got loads of cash, and you know what? I'm going to fuck you up. Yeah. It could be just about that.
That's interesting. That's one. I was going to go the other end of the weight classes and say Jesse Bam Rodriguez. I think because he's currently just doing a promotional deal with Eddie right now and doesn't have a real deal. And if we're talking the lower weight classes, because if you go down the list of the 8 weight classes that Zuffa is going to be doing, you know, you've got heavyweight, cruiserweight, light heavy, middleweight, welterweight, lightweight, featherweight, and bantamweight. Outside of those, they've got a heavyweight signing in F.A. Ajagba. They're finishing the paperwork on what's going to be the Andy Ruiz deal as well. And we've talked about Alexander Usyk. At cruiserweight, you've got Jai Opataya. You got to bring in some people like that. I've said it before, and I'll continue to say it, and I'll look it right in the camera when I say that I think that Ryan Rozicki is perfect for that kind of position inside of Zuffa Boxing. He's got a fight coming up. Let's see what happens there. At light heavyweight, they really don't have anybody yet. But you've got a guy like Artur Beterbiev, who's currently going around without a contract. David Benavidez, who's, you know, he's got Samson Lekowitz as his promoter. He's, you know what I mean? So he's up for grabs, essentially. At middleweight, they've already got Callum Walsh, right? But PBC has a couple of guys in Christian and Billy and Xander Zayas that would be fantastic over at Zuffa. At welterweight, they just signed with Conor Benn, right? They're trying to figure out, I mean, you know as well as I do that trying to get Ryan Garcia isn't just a matter of getting that belt in the WBC thing. It's more of a, hey, Oscar, screw you. That's really what it would be, because that's Oscar's kid, right? Even though as much as they hate each other, it seems like that's where his contract is. PBC has Brian Norman Jr. and Teofimo Lopez, who are going to be up. At lightweight, you've got Edwin De Los Santos that they've already signed, but you've got another guy that I would love to see them take from Oscar's camp, which is Floyd Schofield. But PBC has Abdullah Mason and Keyshawn Davis. Like, there's a lot of names out there. At featherweight, they don't have anybody at featherweight yet. So they're going to be looking for people there. I think that, you know, Bruce Carrington is a perfect fit for that weight class. And then at bantamweight, your biggest star at your lowest weight class, Jesse Bam Rodriguez, which would be another nail in the coffin of Eddie Hearn. This is what I think the progression is going to be for Zuffa Boxing. Those are the names that are out there, that are currently out there, that people know, and they're going to go after them. They're going to have to.
And you know, the work you've just done with all of the people who are going to be out of contract is fantastic, because that chimes with Nick Khan saying, no, we're not going to, you know, we won't break contracts. Yeah. But what it also allows them to do, you're quite right, is to say, we have all these people, you know, this house is made of brick called Zuffa Boxing. You can't get out. You know, we've got everything here, but you can't get out of this. It's like Logan's Run in a way. So you can't, but without Michael York. So
and an age limit.
Yeah. I mean, there's no age limit there at all. It would seem to me, because they might be asking Floyd Mayweather to come in. Anyway, let's talk about that in a bit. But you've got this house that they can't leave. You're under house arrest, really. But if you're saying, here's all weight classes and here's the main guy, then we bring in some people who you don't know. But as you say, they produce excellent fights. And then you say, I'd like to see them again. And you can. In 2 months' time. So you can now see that, you know, you can now see all of this. So that would be the way they could do that. It would be, you know, by bringing in all of those people, it would be, well, we've got all these top liners, and then we'll just bring the others up there and make those starts. Yeah, could do that.
Here's another thing that I will throw out there as a hot take. Dana typically doesn't like to mess around with female athletes until he absolutely has to. He's proven this in the past with the UFC, with his reluctancy to sign female fighters at the beginning until Ronda made a big deal and blah, 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 and Gina Carano. Now, you look at fast forward right now, Gina Carano and Ronda Rousey are fighting under MVP, which is Jake's company on Netflix, and they're doing an MMA fight. Maybe. Do you think this could fast forward Dana's approach to do women's boxing in Zuffa as well? Because the number one free agent in women's boxing right now is Clarissa Shields. And that would be ultimately just being like, yeah, you can have your other fighters MVP, but now you've pissed me off because you've stepped into the MMA world with trying to do this. Now I'm going to take everything from you as well. Or you're going to come to the table that I'm going to set for you.
That's it. So you say, so what Zuffa do perhaps is that they say, okay, we are the biggest. We got the biggest table here. It's made of oak and it's never going to break. So we are sitting here at the head of that. You can come in and sit at that. We will dictate the menu. So we will tell you, Jake, we will tell you, Ben Shalom, we will tell you, even Eddie Hearn, what we are going to do here. We will tell you what contracts you can give us or we can give you. And you will agree that, because if you don't, there's no boxers out there that you want. So, you've got to, you can go on a smaller level. Maybe why Frank Warren has said the live gate will always be there. So maybe he's seeing this because you know how prescient he is as far as boxing promotion goes. And he's not part of that febrile world. He doesn't do that, a bit like Ben Shalom. But Ben Shalom, I think, is the kind of person that will be ideal for them because he wants to make deals with others. So he would go to that table and say, yeah, what's the contract? Five fights with these fighters, and I have to bring them to you, and then they're your fighters, but you work with me on a kind of contractual basis, and boxer is really no more. Kinda. So that's maybe where we're going here. It's a monopoly, which is what people have said is a problem.
I think you're going to see a mad dash, and it's going to come down to the signing of older contracts, old person locker rooms. I think that Bob Arum, I think that Frank Warren, I think that those are the two bodies that are going to get out of it. I think that their locker rooms are going to be up for grabs, and I think that it's going to be a mad dash for cash between Eddie Hearn and Matchroom and Zuffa. And this is going to turn into WCW versus WWE. The problem is I don't think that Eddie has figured out in this picture he's WCW because WWE already owns and is in partnership with the UFC, which means they're in partnership with Zuffa, which means that eventually Eddie's just going to get bought out anyways. There's always things that you got to figure out and do the long math on this stuff, Steve, right?
Yes. Now, putting aside the possibility this is a kind of business of boxing thing between Zuffa, Dana White and Eddie Hearn, who have said, we don't like each other very much. And remember, just before this was announced, they were snapping at each other. So it could be, putting that to one side, if it is that Eddie Hearn woke up and went, I've got something from Conor Benn's solicitor, which says that he's leaving me or us or Matchroom. He's got to be now thinking, I am in that's get your tanks off my lawn, isn't it?
Well, that is make sure that your other contracts are tight. If that's the case, because if it's not, then this whole thing will get exposed that it's a work, right? And there's just there's certain variables that you have to dictate in the world of boxing. You have to understand that you don't have, because these people open up their own promotions so that they can do their own thing. So you cannot at any time think that these young guys who are out looking for millions and millions of dollars are going to be able to say, no, this is fine. I'm going to hang out the rest of my days. So there's only certain variables in life, this being one of them.
Come to the children. Wu-Tang is for the children. We teach the children.
I mean, that is the only variable that you can ever factor in. The true, definite thing. Taxes and Wu-Tang is for the children, ladies and gentlemen.
You sod. Every time.
Every single time. And you know what, Steve? That's what we're going to continue to do with the Bees of Boxing. I'm Steve. He's Chris. Nope, that's not right. I'm Steve. He's Chris. Nope, still not right. See, this is what happens when you don't do that one thing, Steve. You know what that one thing is? Tuck your
Wrestling, rock, pop, books, films, TV, boxing. All of this is covered on Steve Swift's Rambling Reviews. I am he, Steve Swift, a UK guy, What you get is all of that, and a funny voice, and even a funnier face. See? Steve Swift's Rambling Reviews. Come to me. I've got a review. Just for you. Ta-ta.